Has our history been fundamentally influenced by a hidden alien agenda? The author of this well-written and thought-provoking book believes so. His interest in some form of external intervention was derived from his studies of the Fatima event in Portugal, which took place in 1917. Dr. Kulczyk has a PhD in laser applications, and he set about interpreting what may have happened during that summer on the Iberian Peninsula, using his specialist engineering background. He was impressed by the case because of a large number of eyewitnesses of a remarkable display in the sky, or miracle of the sun, and the predictability of each visionary appearance of the figure whom many interpret as the Virgin Mary. He became convinced that the visions were created by a visiting culture whose engineering prowess enabled the phenomenon through utilizing advanced laser technology combined with an undeniable penchant for theatrics. This may sound far-fetched on first consideration, but once the author brings his expertise to bear on the case, it begins to not only become a plausible possibility, but even seems quite likely. This becomes Kulczyk's springboard to examine history with a fresh pair of eyes. Having in his mind established that intervention occurs, he points out how many turning points in history rested upon quirks of chance or a series of events which seem implausible. I would say that Kulczyk has a strong deterministic streak in his philosophical outlook. He is certainly no believer in a snafu explanation for human history. I find the idea that even great thinkers, leaders, and scientists are prone to egregious mistakes more easy to bear, but who's to say? He argues his case. The fall of communism in Russia required intervention because there was a need to remove the communist regime. In this case, intervention would be very difficult, because the intelligent beings can influence the beliefs of individual persons. However, they cannot interfere in the activities of large groups of people who strongly believe in certain ideas. Therefore, it is easier for them to achieve the necessary results in states ruled by a dictator than in democratic countries, because it would be sufficient to change the convictions of only one person. But his analysis of the Fatima visions remains a strong contender for the intervention of some kind. Kulczyk argues that encounters are neither typical Marian visions, nor are they typical UFO sightings and related phenomena. Ironically, where UFOs are probably not ET related, the Fatima events might be, he thinks. But the organization of such encounters would have to be extraordinary, even by today's standards. The bulk of the book is an essentially factual description of some kind of grand turning points in history. It takes in the sudden emergence of civilizations in Sumer, in Egypt, which the author generously describes as egalitarian societies compared to their more barbaric neighbors. He ascribes their appearance to an import of people and knowledge from a proto-civilization located somewhere in the Caspian Sea area. This zone, he thinks, was visited by intelligent beings who gifted the peoples of the area with great learning in the art of civilization building. The locals migrated, some of whom became the Sumerians, and then descended upon the marshlands of Mesopotamia. The chapters which follow describe some of the great prophets and how the monotheistic religions established themselves. The center of the book becomes a thesis on comparative religions. Whether this seemed relevant to the claim posed in the book's title is a moot point. Kulczyk provides some useful insights in how the competing religions fitted into history. These religions were seeded by the intelligent beings he proposes, through visionary experiences similar, presumably, to those experienced in Fatima. He then looks in some depth at the lives of more modern thinkers like Nietzsche and Gurdjieff, and how their philosophies might direct humankind towards a future where we ourselves become fully conscious beings, like the aliens who have intermittently molded our civilization and development. All of these chapters are well written, balanced, informative, and above all, interesting to read. They contrast with the author's appraisal of the alleged decline in our own society's moral standards, which becomes something of a Daily Mail rant. Statistics can pretty much be used to deliver whatever point you want to make in this area, and the author's usual careful journalistic balance becomes derailed. The focus on religion in the book, and bear in mind that the author is an established scientist, led me to ponder whether he was advocating an alien dimension to angelic intervention. There may be a fine line between the paranormal and the supernatural, if any distinction beyond our biased interpretation exists at all. In the true sense of the word, the purported existence of the intelligent beings could be classified as a cult. Their influence is hidden and is intermeshed with esoteric thought and philosophies. This interpretation may reflect the interests of the author more than any reality that we can hope to establish, given the known scenarios outlined by him. But it would be nice to think that there are really some guardian angels from the stars looking out for our interests as we can continue our inexorable progress.